Hello and welcome back to another week of On Repeat, the podcast. We're still very much feeling like we're at the beginning of 2021, but fear not, because we have something to spice up your lockdown. This week, we give you London-born artist Lucy Liu, also known as Luke Bauer, who combines experimental and progressive jazz with his silky melodies. And we talked to Luke about his musical journey, growing up in London, collaborations with his partner Uma, and even some of his guilty music pleasures.
Oh, I love this episode so much. I loved speaking to Luke. He was super lovely. And a little bit of background about Luke. His first gig was supporting the London-based post-punk outfit Shame. And amongst the lineup for his first outing was Miss Maurice and Richie Seivwright of KOKOROKO, along with longtime friend Puma Blue, aka Jacob Allen, on guitar, who's someone that interviewed in our previous season. So if you want to find out more about him, maybe go back and listen to that one after you listen to this.
What a cosmic episode that was. Loved that.
It all ties together. We love a tied up world.
Exactly. So whilst writing and releasing music under Lucy Liu, Luke still managed to tour the world playing bass for Nilüfer Yanya. So you can check out the Tiny Desk with her and Luke's playing bass on that if you haven't already. He also joined one of our favourites, Loyle Carner, on his EU tour in 2019, and he has supported Arlo Parks, who we all know has kicked off.
Exactly.
Lucy Liu has also appeared on a Colours Berlin show where he performed a debut of Insomniac, and we absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favourite Colours videos to date, really. It's so good. We do talk about that in the podcast, so definitely listen out for that bit. And Luke was actually in the middle of a tour when the first wave of COVID hit, so he was opening for the Cat Empire. They were able to squeeze in around 2 shows at London Shepherd's Bush O2 before nationwide lockdowns put a stop to all concerts, sadly. So on the eve of the borders closing, Luke flew to a sunny Spain to be with his partner Uma, and together they spent lockdown writing, recording and growing vegetables, and it just sounded absolutely lush. That was where we interviewed Luke. Obviously, we weren't in sunny Spain. We were in a very wet and cold London, but it's just the power of modern technology, right? So he's in beautiful Barcelona and he's working on a Lucy Liu debut album. So we're super excited to hear that when it comes out and see if there's any sort of Spanish influence.
Ooh, yeah, I've been keeping up to date with Luke and Uma on Instagram. They've got some pretty lush videos. If you want some amazing, lovely, peaceful things to watch, you should definitely check them out.
Super gorgeous, super gorgeous. And Uma's amazing in her own right. She's going to be on the show, whether she likes it or not. We're just putting that out there.
we want you. You're amazing. And yeah, so if you haven't come across Lucy Liu yet, you are in for such a treat. And we have no doubt that you'll want to keep him on repeat. So without further ado, this is Lucy Liu. It's nice to have you on today from Spain as well.
Lovely to be here. Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I've been super excited. I was listening to your music earlier, just I'm obsessed. And I'm so excited.
Is this your first podcast, Luke?
This is my first podcast. My first podcast. You can see I'm nervous already.
Because I don't really know anything about your life and like where you grew up and if your parents are musical, and you say your mum was playing the planets.
Yeah.
Sick. I wish my mum was playing the planets.
What does your mum play?
What does she play?
What does she What does she play to you as a kid?
Oh, I love it when our guests
ask a question
switch
back,
around and ask the question around. It's a very particular type of guest that does that.
You slightly hate it. You're like,
I see you. My mum she liked 2 things.
Yeah.
Number 1 was Queen.
Cool.
Lovely.
And number 2 was Mika.
Mika.
Yes. Mika.
What's the song?
Wait, is in like
The big one.
I can be brown. I
It
can
could
be
be
violet sky.
yeah.
that's quite modern. I think I was like brought up on like strictly
Yeah, man.
strictly like Motown and reggae and Bowie and like maybe like Roxy music. I think that's it. I think that's when my mum just stopped. She just stopped. She hit those years and was like, do you know what? I'm done.
My mum loved Roxy music. You know when you I'm actually, another reason I'm nervous is because I think my parents would be definitely listening to this. I don't know about anybody else in my family, but I know my parents are definitely going to check this out. And they are, I don't want to get anything wrong about their things, but my mum, I think, is definitely a big Roxy music fan. And, but she did like a lot of different stuff as well. Like, I remember a lot of Erykah Badu coming out of the kitchen.
Ooh, yeah.
She had a really, really broad music taste. So she'd be playing a lot of different things. And the Planets was just a random, sometimes she'd just be vibing to the Planets in the kitchen. Not that she was always in the kitchen. Sometimes she was in the studio as well. But she would always listen to music while cooking. And
I think that's the perfect accompaniment. Is your mother also a musician?
She's
not.
not
An artist?
She's an artist. She's a visual artist.
Oh, sick.
And she works in a variety of different mediums, but she's mostly visual. But we've collaborated on a piece before, which was really interesting, where she went round with a little Zoom recorder, recording sounds from the South Bank and where I live, where I grew up. So the South Bank and the River Thames. So she recorded all these found sounds like pebbles rattling and this train going over the bridge. And then she gave it all to me. And then I made sampler instruments out of the stuff I could make harmonic, and then just percussion out the stuff that I couldn't. And then made a score to a kind of film that then she then shot of just the water. So yeah, I want to big that up. Actually, that's what I want to promote in this podcast. You should go check that out. I'll give you guys the link to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's actually like one of my favorite pieces of music I've made. Because I was like quite young when I did it, and I'm like, this is actually so clever. Like I would never be bothered to do anything now like this. And obviously, it took my mum coming up with the concept for it. So that was the cool thing that I did. It's got some, like the EXS24 on Logic. Yeah, I just put all of the sounds into there, and then you can like make them, tune them, and it was like, it was a really cool kind of film. My version of a film score, but for like a short 7-minute art film.
That's really cool.
sick.
Was that like kind of?
Do you think,
Karen, you go, Ellie.
you should, sorry, this always happens on Zoom. I was just kind of interested when you were talking about it being one of your favorite or the best piece of music that you've done. Is that something that you think you're aware of in the moment, or when you've just completed the project, or is it something that you feel like a few years later when you've got maybe like a different set of ears to go back on it?
I think at the time I was like, it just felt very like I'd make that kind of thing all the time, as in the feel of it, not with the instruments. The instruments were obviously quite unique, but with now looking back, I'm like, it sounds really, it still just sounds kind of interesting and cool and not like anything else I've really made. And I think that's why I like it, because some of the stuff I'd be like, this is going to be my neck, this is going to be huge. And then you look back at it in like 2 years and you're like, I sound like a baby. I sound like do you know what I mean? And I think but maybe it's because it didn't have my voice on it. I think the voice is always a big signifier of like where you're at. Like when I listen back to my old things, I'm always like, oh, wow, damn, I couldn't sing. Or
I think you're a bit hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I think your voice sounds kind of like butter.
Butter.
Like there is actually I think there's a playlist on Spotify called Butter.
I've actually been on it before. One of my tracks of my first EP called Promise I Broke was on there. And I was like, this is kind of a weird track to be on Butter, because it's like, that's like a ballad. It's like quite sad. And I was like, I guess it doesn't really belong here. I guess the drums kind of do, but the subject matter and feel of the track for me is quite cold, not buttery.
Interesting. So maybe it's cold butter, not melting butter.
It's not spreadable.
It must be kind of strange listening to someone else describe your voice in a particular way. Do you feel like you take influences by any particular singers, or did you have training, or do you follow sort of techniques, or do you just sort of do your thing?
For ages, I did my thing, and I was just like, this is, singing training. This is silly. And then had to just get it together and get some training, because my music taste kind of began to expand, or like I feel like my music taste moved, and then 2 years later I was like, damn, I've been trying to sing this kind of music for 2 years and I can't still, so I need to probably get some training. Like now it's still not where I want it to be. I think it kind of goes in and out of like, I'm really happy with it, and then you kind of go, oh, I wish it could do more things. I wish I'd started practicing falsetto when I was like 16 rather than getting into it now.
When I was doing jazz and pop singing, it was really difficult to find a teacher who really understood technique in a popular music context.
Yeah.
But have you found that as well? I feel like it's
Definitely.
quite a lot of figuring out. How do you retain your sense of style?
I've had my voice described, like, I think by this guy called Cameron, my friend Cameron. He says, your singing voice sounds exactly like your speaking voice. And
really?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, thanks. He was like, yeah, of all the singers I've met, you're one of the people that retains their natural speaking voice in their singing voice. I was like, oh, that's
interesting.
I think I'm proud of that. I don't know, I've had such different styles of teachers. So like my first teacher I was in year 11. I was doing the school musical. I was playing the lead male part in Moulin
what?
Rouge, Christian.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's such a great musical. Oh my God.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
That's my favourite song to sing.
Really difficult parts to sing though as well. For especially as I just kind of come out of like, I don't know, I was like, yeah, I'm going to model my voice on Johnny Cash and people that have a really low voice and not really bother with anything too fiddly. And then straight away I'm going into singing like Elton John. Well, there's some medleys in it and stuff like that as well. There's all kinds of different stuff. So I was like, really, the singing teacher was really putting me through my paces there, and I was hating every step of it. And then my next singing teacher was a fella called Sam, who was an artist himself and was just trying to give me techniques to expand range and different voices to explore. But and he kind of brought me into that thing of like, try and resonate your voice in different parts of your head, and like that kind of like sing like you're a witch stuff. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't know how much I'm gonna need it. And then I had a bit more of that kind of style at Goldsmiths, and then I had another my favorite singing teacher today, which was Daisy, a girl called Daisy, who she was just awesome, because she was I just had a really beautiful voice and a really holistic way of looking at the singing, and like also just looking at artistry as a craft. And that was really useful, because we'd go through songs that I had and I'd sing to her, and she'd look at how she'd like break it down and be like, so here's how you're like sliding all the time, here's how you're not taking the breath in the wrong place, here's how you're doing that. And it was like, okay, cool, that gave me the tools to look at my own songs and how I sing. So
that's the key, isn't it? Like giving someone the tools to do something. I think actually that was the answer to my question that wasn't really a question. But that's it, isn't it? Like, if you want to sort of find a bridge between some kind of technique, but also retaining your sort of sense of self in a creative context, it's just being given the tools.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Right? Like,
interested to know, like, what came first? Was it the singing for you, or was it the instrumentation?
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Piano instrumentation. It actually was. I started learning. I think Actually, it came at the same time. I was 14, so I came to music kind of late. When I actually started to take it, like, okay, I'm going to try this out for a bit. And I just learned, I think it was a Kings of Leon cover on piano and voice.
Oh, yeah.
For a school music assignment, like for year 9 music class, they were like, get in a group, learn a song. And I was like...
we had to do that as well.
That's quite a modern choice, actually. That's quite cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was just like, here's an easy one for you.
You know, when you're writing songs and trying to get people together, because I know you work with Tim, who I work with.
Oh, yeah, we have a mutual collaborator.
Do you find that it helps you to have plans when you're in rehearsals or writing?
I never go with any kind of writing or paper or notes really in a rehearsal setting. If I'm feeling organized, I'll hopefully have sent recordings of the musical parts to the players.
Right.
But I think also Tim could probably say this as well, that oftentimes I'll just throw something at him. I'll be like, yeah, these chords in the middle of a rehearsal. So I always like to think that I'm really organized, and then at the last moment, I drop out of that. And so it's kind of organized chaos, I guess.
The best kind.
I think I used to come at it even more chaotically when I was younger. Kind of expect arrangements to sort of form out of there being people in a room. But obviously it doesn't actually tend to happen. Normally you need to kind of say, this is where you don't play something. And having those ideas or just a structure or a demo or something there before is good.
I was going to say, so you just said about here's a part you don't play. And actually, I think that's something that I did notice about some of your music, particularly Insomniac. There's a really good use of silence and pauses. And I love it so much. It's so tension building. And I just wondered how you started to kind of incorporate that into your music. Was it something you'd always done, or did that come from stop and then be like, oh, actually I like this little break?
Yeah. It was kind of something that, when you are playing with groups of people, playing in bands, it's always that moment where you go, oh, they've worked on this, where everybody knows to stop or something like that. I think that was just a song where I just took that concept to the fullest you can kind of take it and bring that. I've heard a couple of songs. There's a Jovial. Do you know Jovial?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a song of hers that has a really nice stop in it. And also I think I take it a lot from film score music. A lot of the influence on my music is film score music. So you get this big build-ups and then it's and then you don't get the payoff or whatever.
Yeah.
In a big scene. And I think film score music was the first type of music I really was listening to, because my mum would bang out, I don't know, The Planets, which isn't a film score, I don't think, but
Holst.
Yeah, I think so. Holst. Yeah, I believe.
Gustav Holst.
You were talking about your mum going around and finding sounds.
Yeah, sure.
And then you kind of resampled it. Is that something you do in your music now?
Never. Never. This actually, with lockdown, having a bit more time for a couple of the Uma tracks, we got some bits around the house and we put them in. But not as much as I should. Yeah. Do you guys do that?
Yeah. No, but we've spoken to a few people that have. Well, I don't. I think Ellie wants to. But we've spoken to.
I do. I used to do it quite a lot, but I do it.
It's one of those things like yoga. It's the people that do it, you're really jealous of them. You're oh, it's so cool that you do it, and it's good for you, and it's good for your music. But it's also something that's just can be a bit. I don't know. I can't be asked sometimes.
I also think it's quite hard to kind of take a sound of I don't know and then be able to turn that into something else. I sometimes don't know how to.
That I heard that I was that's perfect. We're going to use that. I was Hattie, what's wrong with it? Yeah.
Do you use live instruments, or are you using sort of digital instruments, plugins, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. Again, always that thing of trying to play a trick on yourself. So if I'm using a guitar, I don't like it unless there's 4 of the same guitar playing the same part. And then, yeah, a fair bit of the like synthy stuff is just MIDI or like, yeah, just MIDI orchestra sounds that you then like fuck with. I like wish I had I've never had a studio where I've gone say, okay, I'm going to get my double bass player to come play double bass. It's like always been out of my bedroom or here, this is my studio setup, which is basically our kitchen. Which you can imagine is super, super good. The fridge is just always going.
Yeah, you've got a really nice like.
Yeah, so I always take it out. I always take out the fridge when I'm recording vocals and then forget. And then the next day, everything's like, yeah, it comes at a price, you know?
Yeah, going back to collaboration, you've worked with quite a few artists. And like as a broad brushstroke question, do you, not really, I guess like, what's your favourite part about collaborating with someone?
I really like how it makes me do things I wouldn't normally do. I think that's my favorite, is like making music I wouldn't normally make. Having somebody there, like, because I feel like when you're writing stuff by yourself, it can be kind of a little bit like hard to be excited all the time, you know? And I really like that part when you get really excited about what you're making. And I think that's a bit easier when you're with somebody else. I don't like, even though you haven't asked me my least favorite part, I'm going to give you that bit as well. I don't like when you're working with somebody.
Oh,
and
you really warm it into this.
I don't like when somebody just shuts down your idea and you're like, so what else should we do? And you know, when they're not giving in the creativity, when you just feel like it's like a relationship, you know, you have to be, there's a give and take. And I feel like when somebody's just taking, and I feel like maybe this is cynical, but sometimes in sessions where you're like just meeting someone for the first time, you know, like, I don't know if guys have ever been in like a session where it's like your management's put you together and then you just kind of write a song and then that's it. You know, you never see each other again. It feels like, yeah, just quite, it can sometimes feel a little bit like, whoa, I don't know. Yeah, that's why I prefer to write with people I know a bit.
A bit pointless.
Yeah, a bit pointless and a little bit, you just feel like there's not a kind of, give and take thing where, you know, I think this is the problem with me is because people normally think, oh, he's the producer. I'm like, yeah, you know, we can write a song for me as well. Like, we don't, you know, I'm an artist as well. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
It sounds selfish, but I just find that every time I've been in a session where it hasn't been with a friend like Jacob or Nilüfer, it's like, it's always, the onus is always on me to make a beat and they're going to, you know, someone's going to walk away with a song. And it's like, I think that is my least favorite way of writing because I really like to write when there's, the roles aren't just like given to you. Do you know what I mean? So when me and Jacob write together, or it's just a bit more kind of nobody's on production or writing. Like anybody can be on the either side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less predefined and a bit more like
and
adaptable.
Flowy.
So is that how you like find people to work with? Is it now just through like friends and word of mouth?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've done a couple of sessions from here, which have been really cool actually. I think it's been because we do more like I'm going to do a bit, you do a bit, send it back and forth. So you're not actually in the room with the person, so you can spend like 6 hours like doing some synths or something for somebody and then be like, tell me if you like it. Yeah, I don't know. I always found it because I like, when I was in London and we weren't on lockdown, I was playing bass for Nilüfer, I was doing my own stuff. I would occasionally play guitar for Jacob. Then I'd be trying to write my stuff and always the issue was finding time for it all. So oftentimes towards the end, I was just being offered people by my management all the time. And that was cool, but it just also felt a bit like, I'd really like to just go in a week with somebody and we just, you know, almost like live in and work like that, which is what me and Jacob did for a bit last year. And we did some really lovely just was a really nice time for working. And one of the songs has gone on his album, and I think the rest are going to go on mine when that comes out.
Who is like your dream person to collaborate with?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Dead or alive, possible or impossible?
I normally say like Little Dragon, but I think I'm going to go with Hans Zimmer or
Nice.
or the Wicked Ensemble,
That
maybe
connects
is
very nicely.
to keep it the whole Wicked Ensemble. But I think
Keep the theme. Keep the theme.
And on repeat,
Nice.
it's actually been Little Dragon, funny enough.
Cool.
There's this track called Lover Chanting, which I just really like. It's not particularly crazy or deep. And then just another recommendation, Sev Daliza, Darkest Hour.
Oh, Sev
Daliza,
Daliza, I love
right?
her. Oh,
My friend Harvey
I saw her in,
put me onto her.
Heaven.
Oh,
She's
wow,
amazing.
you saw her live?
Yeah, but this was obviously like a year or two ago. It was so good. Like the dancing was on point, like lights. And it was quite like, Heaven's not a huge venue.
For it like that?
It's just amazing. I think
Yeah.
so. And there was like balloons and it was just great. Like, what is it? Or how do you kind of put together your live act? Do you always have like a live band with you? Obviously, your colour show's got like a huge horn section.
Yeah. So again, this kind of Organised Chaos way of going about it, where you're like, yeah, I'm going to get loads of people in, but I can't actually write on a score. Like I can't write, so I never have sheet music. Normally, again, when I have horn players, I'm like, just do what you want. Apart from if there's a line in which I will normally sing it to them or have hopefully sent it to them before. So yeah, it's like quite, as much as I love musicals, I'm not going about it in that pro way. It's can be quite chaotic. So I'm a big fan of the chemistry that builds up between people that play together a lot and love each other. I think you can't really... I think that's like the next best thing to being super organized. Last few months of being a hypey live act in London, I was trying to boil it down to, I think Tim was in it, Ellis was in it, and Tim's been playing, and Tim and Ellis, I should say, are my keys player and drum player, and they've both been playing with me for a long, long time. So I started like, when I first got the idea to do Lucy Liu as a project, I was working with these two girls called Sheila and Richie, who they now probably most famously play in KOKOROKO, but they're all over in terms of, they're just amazing horn players, so they're very, very in demand. And I'm like, I can't believe I had them in my band, and I was kind of being like, just play what you want. But then again, it was like amazing to learn of them, because I'd be like, okay, just play what you want. And Sheila would write like an amazing horn line, like one of the best horn lines you've ever thought in, like, it's off the top of the brain. And it was just that, and then they'd harmonize it between themselves. And I've always kind of like just given the musicians tried to be like, if they write the parts, they're going to be more invested in it, and it's going to feel less like we're playing a dude's music and more like we're playing our music. And I think I really like that. And obviously sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because people have other commitments. And I think for colours it was a really weird one, because Ellis, who's like my main man, who I played with the longest of all of my band, he's the drummer and electronics, SFX kind of stuff. He was away, so we were like, shit, what are we gonna do? So I was on tour at the time, and I was with my friend Harvey, who's on vocals and keys, and my friend Gabe, who was on bass. And we were sure that we were going to do it just a 3-piece, that song. I was like, just go and just do a nice little chill version. And like a week before or something, Colours on my management, I can't remember which one, were like, we need the drums, we need the horns. We booked you because of the drums and the horns. And I was like, I'm tour managing my own tour right now. this is kind of crazy for you to put this in my lap. But yeah, we just got it together. I just was able to find a drummer who was able to do it, get the horns there, and yeah, I'm so glad we did, because it's like it came together so well. And it's like one of those things where the first 5 takes we're in colors, you know, like so many amazing artists have done there. The first 5 takes we're learning the song. We're like practicing it together. Do you know what I mean? And then the 6th one we're like, it's pretty good. And the 7th one we're like, everybody just have fun. And we say to Kian, who's the youngest member of the band, she's like 17, we're like, at the end, just while out, just go for a solo. And she does, and she absolutely smashes it. And the drummer's like, okay, I've got to get my flight now, and literally runs without packing down the drums. And we're like, yeah, everybody's like high-fiving. It was a wonderful, wonderful like version of Organised Chaos coming off in a like way that it was like obviously meant to, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. That was a bit of a window into my way of working, I guess, with that stuff.
I love it. That was great. That was so good. I was also thinking, Ellie and I spoke about this to Jacob about kind of the streaming culture.
Yeah.
And like whether that will ever kind of, I think particularly in lockdown, not necessarily replace gigs, but if it can be like a really good alternative. And actually, I guess something like Colours is a perfect version of that streaming culture, because they were kind of like ahead of the curve. I think they've done a really successful job. They've got like some great acts. It looks great. It sounds great. And then obviously by the sounds of it, the artists have so much fun.
Yeah, I think it can be, I think there's obviously good and bad to everything. I think Universal have a deal with Colours. So you kind of like, you license your song to them. So obviously, yeah, like some of the rights get signed away and you're not paid for it. Do you know what I mean? So all the money you're doing, obviously, yeah, you it's amazing promotion. Obviously, you get a great following and numbers from it. So this is not me shitting on Colours at all. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's important to, obviously with this year and everything that's been said about the music industry this year, it's important to always be thinking, well, there's probably a better deal in there somewhere. But Colours is definitely one of the better platforms. And I have to say the team were really lovely. And yeah, I mean, they were a bit, this is a little bit behind the scenes, but they were a bit like, we said no live drums. And I was like, what do you mean? I just had to book live drums. Like, and then when they heard it, they were like, it sounds great. Why were you worried? I was like, you told me no live drums when I got here. You looked stressed. It was one of those things. I was just, it's just, I think they were worried because it's just a big, like, obviously it's just a big room. So like they're worried it's going to reflect and the sound's going to fuck up. But I had a guy called Chris Boot, who is an amazing drummer, and he played very sensitively and very well on that. So we were quite lucky there for that stuff.
It's funny, Hattie, what you were saying about Colours being kind of ahead of their time, especially in during COVIDism or whatever you want to call it. Tiny Desk as well.
Yeah.
And how it's quite different doing, I guess, like a song or a gig in that context, because unlike a live performance, you know that it's kind of just, it's there. Like you can't, maybe it's different because people can film gigs and stuff, but how does it feel to you as a performer knowing that is just there, like on the internet, like, or do you get nervous, like more nervous before something like that?
Yeah, like 100%. Wow. You get, I find it so like, it's so funny because I did a Tiny Desk with Nilüfer, and I think I make a couple mistakes in it, which is obviously the thing. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, there's no way. But the way they mix it, you know, my like little bum note on the keys or whatever, that happens for like a second. Oh, you don't like, obviously you're not going to notice it. So I think, I always get really nervous. Also with the Tiny Desk, someone came up to me and was like, can I get you anything? And I was like, oh, maybe a coffee? And they brought me this like super strong, like black coffee, like super American, like, I don't know, it must have had like 200 grams of caffeine in it. And I was just like, what? Like, yeah, I was pumped before I went on it. I think with Colours, it was so, like, I was so dumb. I was like, oh, we're going to need to bring amps. We're going to need to bring this. So, like, we trekked it. with all of our hard cases in cabs and stuff. And like we unload everything. And they're like, yeah, we just go straight into the desk. And I was like, oh, damn. It's just the room, isn't it? But you think you don't feel the thousands of people that are going to watch it on a big, on those big ones. But I always find it really nerve-wracking. I get nerve-wracking before I do an Instagram live to like 3 people. So like,
that's so interesting, because I think a lot of the time people assume that performers don't get nervous and that they're really comfortable sharing their work, but actually it's such a vulnerable part of yourself that you're putting out there, not just because you're performing, but because it's your work and it's your performance, and you've got to keep everything together with a group of people. Do you have any rituals that or things that you do to help you sort of combat your nerves?
Oh man, we're gonna go down here. Booze, like booze, but like just by the nature of the industry, you're just given beers and like you're paid in alcohol like half the time.
That's a good point.
Which I don't think is like, I'm not advocating for it, and I'm like, this year when I've not been on tour, it's been like, alcohol is not a bad thing, rather than it's just a thing that you go, you have a little beer before you go on stage just to like ease the nerves. And then you have a little beer after the stage to like chill out. And you're like, it's really hard because you kind of actually just, especially when you're on tour, and I have a real problem with sleeping, hence the song Insomniac. And, booze is a great way to get yourself to fall asleep. So, this year's been like recognizing that for me and being like, okay, this is something that, for me was definitely a way to numb those like nerves and feelings of like coming down or coming up. And I don't know, I think it's kind of, I've also had times when I've like not been excited for a show. Like I've been, 20 dates into a tour and you're just like, oh man, like I can't even, another day, like, and I think that's worse. Like I'd always rather be nervous than like not up for it, but then you have to do it anyway because it's your job. I think that the thing with alcohol though and music is they obviously go together like quite well, and it's not about being like that's a terrible thing. It's about recognizing how well they do go with each other, but also being able to say, like, thanks for those times, but I don't need you now that we're not gigging, which has been something for me this year.
That's a really wonderful answer, and thank you for your honesty with that as well, because I think that really resonates with me, and it's just, I've only just thought about it now, how, like sometimes you get paid in alcohol, don't you, as a musician? And it is just sort of there. And does it help you? I don't know. Like, I mean, I know something that I do if I ever feel anxious is I try and turn those anxious feelings into excitement. Like you were saying, it's probably better to feel anxious than not bothered, because then at least you can keep yourself on your toes. But if we could be responsible about this and forget about the sort of drinking culture we have, not just sort of like, particularly in the UK, but also around music, do you think it would be good to have some kind of like responsible-ish sort of body that was like, right, we're going to really like try and take care of you as a musician, and if you're feeling nervous, and what do you think that would look like?
Yeah, there's two ends of it. So obviously if maybe you're not getting paid in booze, you're getting paid really good fees. But that still means the rider's going to be crazy. It's going to be like, whatever the most expensive liquor or whatever it is you want. And then the other part of it is, you're getting paid in like your 6 cans. So you're like, we're getting our money's worth tonight. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think, both really lead to excess, because obviously alcohol is addictive. Do you know what I mean? Some people have worse, some people go the full way into that. And some people have a different way of going about it, and they can stay further from that. I've seen really a variety of different bands and acts of different ages, and in the music industry. And what I'm trying to say with that rather is, a young band comes in, they're 18, 19, and they're doing really well. There isn't no one there to say maybe go easy, and maybe we shouldn't say maybe go easy, but I think it's the time after that when, like a year, something like this happens and we're all told to or not told to, we all have to stop and take stock, and then you realize the kind of the habits that you've built up. And but I think it's kind of on us the responsibility would be on the people around, it's on everybody's responsibility to be aware of how their friends are doing a bit more, especially if they're in music, and us as artists who are all in it, maybe to be a bit more just aware of it, I say, would be.
Yeah. Doesn't help it's an industry that's largely around nighttime culture.
There are so many examples of musicians and artists in general who have kind of gone off the rails, I guess, with it.
It's almost
because
a cliche,
it's so easy
right?
to go.
Yeah, I don't even think it's just a music industry issue.
Yeah,
there's an issue in so many sectors.
So true.
There's I think particularly in the UK we have a very poor relationship with alcohol, and it is a lot about excess. I think it could really benefit everyone to maybe take a step back and look at how they consume, whether they're making music or not.
When you're saying take a step back as well, I guess for a lot of people, and Luke, it kind of sounds like this for you to an extent, that was lockdown, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Lockdown was a bit of a step back. And I know I don't know how you found it, Hattie, but I certainly think, it was like that for me as well. And maybe we're privileged enough to sort of have had the tools to be able to realise those things. And I mean, I saw as well on I think it was on Instagram, it looks like you were doing amazing things during lockdown, really enjoying your videos with Uma.
Right.
Did that start? Back to you. Did you see what I did there?
I did. That's a link.
Segue.
That's a professional podcaster at work. So the question is, what was lockdown like? I've been really lucky to be in lockdown with somebody who we can create together, like someone who's creative, someone who does music. Lockdown's been interesting for creativity because I feel like I should have done more, but I'm also quite happy with how much I've done, and I can't be. I have to just be thankful of that. I think we were able to. Uma had just released her first EP. Which is awesome. Everybody should go check that out.
Ooh, been listening to it. It's great.
It's so good, isn't it?
If she wants to come on the podcast,
I will put a word in. I will put a word in for sure. So she just released her first EP. Actually, it was like the 30th of April. Well, it was in April at least. Maybe the 30th. I'm getting that date wrong, but she released the first EP. It all came out in April, and then she was like, I want to release another EP. And I was like, well, we'd actually written the starts of the songs that went on the EP before she said that. But we kind of wrote 2 songs just because it was like, we hadn't written together in ages because we'd been apart for a while. So then it was just really nice to write with her again. And we've made some cool stuff. I think we've got some more stuff that we haven't released that isn't finished yet, but I'd like to release as well. I think, this obviously comes with its issues of being locked down together is trying to keep the creativity fresh. And, that's not a saying between us. It's when you're just feeling really shit about your own creativity, it's hard to be creative with somebody else. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes I'll be feeling it, I'll be making beats, and some days I'm just man, I'm just going to go work in the garden and, work in the house or cook. Or I did a lot of cooking in lockdown. Gotten kind of decent at cooking. I mean, I thought I was...
What was your favourite dish?
Oh, that is a hard question because we made a lot. Uma's mum's been making her own croissants.
Oh, Hattie.
Excellent. I made my own croissants as well from scratch.
Oh, Hattie. So you know about making the butter chilled?
And
the roll lamination. The lamination, yeah.
3 days for 8 croissants.
It's a lot of work, isn't it? Yeah.
do have any guilty pleasures, like, do you have some playlists that maybe would be, you know, you want to share, or some artists that you want to share that might shock us that you listen to?
Yeah, I do, but like I have some things that will shock you, but I don't want to share them, but I will. I'm going to build up to it though. I'm going to start with Elton John. He was, you know, if you had asked me at Goldsmiths, what's your favorite Elton John song? I would have been like, don't ask me that. I don't like his music. But I definitely like his music. I definitely do. There's a couple of bangers that he's got. There's a lot of bangers. Rocket Man is crazy.
Yeah.
Rocket Man is a crazy tune. So I'm going to say that's my favorite tune. This is the problem. I'm quite bad with names, so I could probably sing you a few more, but I'm going to try and do less singing because I've already done a bit of that on this podcast. It's a bit... it's a podcast. It's not for me to hum things to you guys. Guilty pleasures. I've got a real soft spot, yeah. And this is like, I don't think I've spoken about this as an influence
This is
before.
a scoop.
And I definitely feel like you guys are now going to use this as the part that you put on your story. But I'm a big Wicked fan. I'm not going to lie. My cousins and my auntie were hugely into it when I was about 10, 11. And I was like, this is lame. Because I went to school near where they put it on in Pimlico, and I would walk past it on the way, and I was like, it's lame. And they would play it in the car to me, and I was slowly feeling myself be drawn in by it, because music in musicals is just crazy, isn't it? It's like
incredible.
People look down on it, but it's like pretty much the highest form of arrangement and that kind of stuff. And that's just one that I went to as a kid, because they'd been to see it like twice already. They were like, we're taking Luke this time. And I was like, fine. But like slightly kind of excited for it. And then I just loved it. Yeah, I think I was like 11 or maybe 12. And I was just like, this is so cool. Like, I think the music really, really did something to me. And obviously the story is like one quite easy to get because it's about the Wizard of Oz. So yeah, Wicked is my guilty pleasure, bro.
It's funny talking about musicals because I feel like we've never spoken about musicals at all on any of our podcasts, and
And I'm the first person.
Yeah. But I love it because I didn't expect us to go down this dimension. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to relate to it.
I think they're amazing. I studied, like, I kind of think about uni. I studied English and drama, and I think a lot of people kind of put down like the West End kind of thing. Well, not necessarily put it down, but it's like maybe the lowest form of art in some people's mind. But I think there's so much to it, and as you said, it's got so much arrangement. There's so many parts of the process that have to come together to make this show. And is there anything better than making like hundreds of people happy? And there is a reason why tourists go to New York or London and they want to see a Broadway show. They want to see a West End show because you know what you're going to get. You're going to be entertained. And the songs and the dancing, it's like every time I watch a musical, I'm like, oh my God, I want to quit my job and do this. And I don't know if any other thing really makes me feel that way. Yeah,
same. I like when I saw Wicked, I was like, I want to quit I want to quit school and, you know, run away and be the like guy that sweeps the stage, and then like, you know, that typical like, stereotype thing where the guy's practicing with the broom, and then the main guy like hurts his leg, and then you jump in.
And the songs are so hard to sing. I remember doing musical theatre, and they're so hard to get your kind of mouth around the words, and they're so like so much about the emotion and the feeling and like the physicality. It's a lot of things fusing together. That process of like making music, and whether that's like, if you're defining it as like writing the lyrics or producing the beat, do you approach it the same, like as an artist versus being a producer, or do you have like one workflow for the both? Or I mean, I think you probably answered it, and I'm just going on.
No, that is kind of an interesting question. I feel like my approach to writing a song for myself is always a lot more. Well, I always find that, it's not actually about like going, I'm going to go write a song today. It's just about sitting down, playing, and then, if it's good, work with it. If you're not feeling it, don't work with it. It's not necessarily the most productive, but I think the best songs always come quite fast. So, yeah.
What's the fastest you've written a song?
That's a good question. The latest song I put out, Boy of the Sun song, was like 2 hours.
That makes me feel sick.
It was
like, it's so quick.
Yeah, but it was one of those ones where I was like, I'm just gonna write like I don't know what I'm just gonna write a guitar song because I haven't written one of those in ages. And what does a guitar song need? Just a couple of chords, couple of fingers, not like too crazy. Doesn't like, and then that worked that one time. And worked a couple other times, but it was always a little bit longer. And now it doesn't work because I like got, you have to trick yourself, don't you? It's always the tricks you play on yourself, and it's just like, and then if you find out the trick and then you like try and exploit it, the trick's like, nope. I know what you're trying to do. Don't think it's that easy. Yeah.
Luke, you've been such a wonderful guest, and no one can tell that it's your first podcast. It's very natural, very, very natural.
That is to your guys' credit because you're wonderful hosts. Thank you so much for being amazing hosts, having me on. If this is the last podcast I do, I can be happy. It's fine.
Maybe you just like peaked. You're just like, you know what, I've done
one,
and it was the best one.
Yeah. Well, I always have this as the bar, to set it to.
Exactly.
So it's a high bar.
Such a good episode. It was so lovely to interview Luke. Learned loads about him, and it's actually really great to catch up with someone that we both went to uni with, but it was such a long time ago.
I think we hardly spoke at uni, actually. I think that was the case for so many people, and as people develop, you don't know where everyone's going to go off, and it's quite nice speaking to people after uni, I think, when people have carved their paths a little bit more. But Luke's definitely someone was keen on interviewing right from the very start of On Repeat. Someone I said to you, Hatia, we really need to speak to him. He's doing amazing things. So I'm really glad that we got an opportunity to do that.
Me too. He was amazing. It was such a lovely interview. I think we spoke for quite a long time, if I remember rightly. I think we just kind of like kept trying to end the interview and then we'd have like another thing to say. So super grateful for your time, Luke. It was so lovely to chat to you. And great to keep up with you afterwards. I'm so excited to see what happens next. And just thanks so much. And thank you for listening, dear listener. Doesn't make any sense, but thanks so much for listening.
You can keep up to date with Luke via social media, mainly on Instagram, which is at LucyLouBand, and also be sure to check out his Bandcamp, which is lucylou.bandcamp.com, which is easy to remember, and of course on all the usual platforms. Keep rating, subscribing, leaving your lovely comments.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of On Repeat. We have been Hattie and Ellie. We hope that you've enjoyed the episode. And catch you next week, I guess.
Boy with the sun song, what you gotta run from? I didn't know that you were feeling lonesome. So what you gotta run from? Never gonna love one. I didn't know that you were living life so hard on yourself. So hard on yourself.